same session that you're supposed to be in, envisioning a better brand, even on a budget, and that you all have a handout. If you don't, let me know. Otherwise, please give your undivided attention.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, welcome to Building a Better Brand, even on a budget. Last year at SEAHO, every single BizOps presentation I was in where we were talking about assignments or anything else, people kept saying, what do I do for marketing? We don't have a budget for marketing. We don't have staff for marketing, but I know we need to do marketing. So I went back and said, Danielle, we're going to SEAHO next year, and we're going to present on building a better brand, or, well, that's what we called it, but we're going to present about this because I feel like people need the information. So thank you for coming. I'm Amelia Capeda. I am the Associate Director for Business Operations at Florida Gulf Coast University in beautiful Fort Myers, Florida.
And I'm Danielle Galipeau, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for FGCU Housing at Florida Gulf Coast University.
So there's a few things that we want to make sure you leave here knowing, and if you don't feel like you know this, please ask us at the end. We want you to learn the importance of telling your unique story. It is probably the #1 most important thing with marketing. We want you to understand the impact of various types of marketing as well as social media platforms. We want you to learn how to create a cohesive marketing campaign, and then how to identify the elements of a successful campaign and use marketing to successfully recruit new staff. Okay. I want to give you a little bit of background about FGCU because it goes into how we tell our story. It also goes into telling why we made the decisions that we made in terms of increasing marketing. We started really increasing our marketing efforts in 2017. Around 2000, I got to FGCU in 2009, so I've been there a little over 10 years. When I got there, we had 2,800 beds, and the housing market had completely collapsed. And Fort Myers, Cape Coral, was ground zero for that. So it just took us a little longer to recover than other places, but we were the only people building housing at the time in Fort Myers. So we just kept building and building and building. We would have wait lists of 400 people. We didn't need to market. Housing was selling itself. So we really didn't need to. Flash forward, the housing market starts to rebound. Guess where they come to start building housing first? We're going to build off-campus student housing is where they go first. So we started having these increasing numbers of off-campus beds opening and being specifically marketed to our students. And let me tell you, if you don't already know, if you don't have this happening on your campuses, they spend a lot of money for marketing, and they hire people who are very knowledgeable in marketing. So we knew we're going to have to do better. We're going to have to increase our marketing staff. We're going to have to figure out how to do this in the way they do this so that we can still be competitive and we don't end up with low occupancy. I do want to say that we have never opened lower than 97% occupancy, putting all these things into place since 2017. We also wanted to recruit and retain quality student and professional staff. We are starting to see drops in the number of RA applications. I understand that's a trend. We also sometimes have a challenge recruiting new professional staff because we are in Fort Myers, Florida. It is gorgeous. It is also not really the place that caters to new professionals. We have a lot of retirees, and they enjoy it very much. But again, isn't really the place where young people are like, I want to go live in Fort Myers, Florida. So we knew we had to sell that to people as well. We wanted to also increase our students' understanding of value versus cost. They are 18, 19, 20 years old. They don't have a lot of experience with their own finances at this point. Cost and value to them are the same thing. We all know it's not the same thing. We know housing gives them an incredible value for all that they get. They didn't necessarily see that, and so we wanted to make sure that they got it. And we wanted to capture students' attention by telling our unique story. So some of the first steps that we took, we created a departmental marketing committee, and it was comprised of people from throughout our department. So it wasn't just business operations. That's not the story we want to tell, quite frankly. Probably not the most interesting story for our students to hear. Residence life, definitely probably the more interesting part of it to hear, but also our facilities staff. And I will say, in my professional career, this is my favorite committee that I've ever been on. because we work together. We have a greater understanding of what each other's roles are, and it's just been a really valuable piece of the puzzle for us. We reorganized and increased staffing in marketing. We were very, very fortunate to have a director who saw this need and made sure that we had the budget that we needed to get it done. I realize that's not the case for everybody, so we're going to try to give you ideas if you have a larger budget, if you have very little budget today. But we did increase staff. We had an assistant director for marketing and summer conferences, as many places do. I learned very quickly, those are two separate skill sets, very different skill sets. And so our assistant director was actually retiring, and we started to reorganize. So we took conferences out of that job description, put those in the conferences in residence life, and then created a marketing coordinator position. We, at that time, had a half-time social media specialist position, and Danielle was actually in it at that point. She has come far in that period of time. So we made that a full-time position, and we added 2 student interns. So Danielle will talk a little bit more about her interns in a little bit. We also rebranded our department. We had Live Where You Learn as a motto, and it had just gotten a little stale for us. It really wasn't telling our story as well. The university had recently changed their motto to the FGCU effect, and Live the FGCU Life really went well with that. It coordinated well, but it wasn't necessarily a repetition of that motto. And that was actually created by one of the RDs, Kayla Kowalski. She was on the stage yesterday at the opening banquet. She did come up with the Live the FGCU Life. We also changed our logo, so you'll see that in the bottom right-hand corner, and the name of our department. We always went by the Office of Housing and Residence Life. Here's the rub of these off-campus folks. We had one community that was claiming to be the official housing of Florida Gulf Coast University. To say that I was a little upset by that was an understatement. We handled it well. The university actually was able to issue a cease and desist order. So, but because we were the Office of Housing and Residence Life, that didn't really directly connect us to FGCU in the same way as FGCU Housing and Residence Life. So now for most of the things that we're pushing out, we are FGCU Housing and Residence Life in our official communication to students, assignment letters, cancellation letters, recruitment letters, those sorts of things. It says the Office of Housing and Residence Life, and we use the university logo, but all the fun marketing is FGCU Housing and Residence Life. The 3 goals that we had with that marketing committee were, number 1, to retain residents, because we knew we had to at that point, and these other companies were coming for our students very hard. We had to recruit and retain high-quality staff, and we needed to tell our story. So the first year, and really up until this day, those are the 3 main goals that we had for our marketing committee.
So going off a little bit of what Amelia was saying with our whole rebranding of our department, I met when I came onto our team with our main university marketing staff to really figure out, okay, how can we work cohesively together? We don't want to compete. We don't want to send mixed messaging between main university and housing marketing. I know other institutions are very different. We have a very good relationship with our main university marketing. So we wanted to mirror them as much as we could with our messaging. So we are using all their color codes, similar photography style, and all their university fonts. What's nice about housing and our institution is, yes, we are very internal. We do send things out to parents and students, but since we are internal, we can stray away from this a little bit. So we can use other fonts, different colors, make it really eye-catching for our students so the messaging doesn't get lost. It's still unique and captures their attention.
One thing I'll say about the rebranding, I've been on campuses where it's very easy to work with central marketing. I've been on campuses where that's more challenging. So you kind of have to understand the politics of what's happening on your campus. I will say that our main university marketing was very hesitant when we decided to have our own marketing staff. But the amount and volume of things that we put out, they wouldn't be able to handle if we pushed it all their way. I think they see that now. But going with their branding colors, all of their fonts, meeting with them, understanding what they do and what the university's goals are for marketing has gone a long way. And we now have a really good relationship. They trust us that we're not going to go rogue with marketing. And so it's important to pull those people in if you have them and build a team with them. So capturing students' attention. We took this photo because it's a good example of the white noise of print marketing. So you'll see 2 elevators and then a bunch of flyers in between. And this is after we started doing more digital marketing for our students. So before this, it was chaos at the elevators. And what happens is that students don't see any of it. They just see clutter. And so that's one of the things to keep in mind. They're also digital natives, right? We've got the arrival of Gen Z. We're all kind of aware of the things that are coming along with Gen Z. They have a need for instant gratification. Those of you who work in Central Housing Office, Residence Life, I'm sure that you already sense this. They expect immediate responses. When they don't get one within hours, they're calling you again, or they're texting you again, or getting you on Facebook or Instagram again. And they have a high degree of information overload. We all feel it, right? We all feel that information overload from too much social media, too many pieces of print marketing, all the advertising, commercials. It's just a lot of information overload. So you've got to figure out a way to make your information stand out. One of the things that we've found most valuable, get rid of a lot of the text. Make it very, very visual. Pictures, short videos, and they don't even have to be live action videos. We've done a lot of basically sped up PowerPoints with voicing over it, right? And Danielle's laughing, she's like, that's not what it is. But she can tell you exactly what it is. But it's all print and text, but someone reading it, and it makes it visually interesting, and it comes through as a video rather than a still image. We started putting marketing in unusual and highly visible locations, and we've given you 4 examples here. I'm going to go left to right. The first one is a Snapchat filter that we put over the basketball game. Basketball is huge on our campus. We don't have football, so basketball is the big thing. We did go to the Sweet 16 one year.
One year.
Dunk City, right? So you'll see returning room selection, reapply now, February 1st through the 7th. This was last year. The great thing about Snapchat videos, they don't have to use the filter. They don't have to use the filter to see the filter. So as they're swiping through to find the filter they want to use, they see that. And now they know that returning room selection is going on, or they're reminded that it's going on. Oh yeah, I still have to reapply for housing. So Snapchat filters are really powerful. The other thing, they give a lot of analytics, and Danielle will talk about that later. The second thing you'll see, it differs from our new branding a little bit because this is one of the first things that we did, and this was before Danielle and her staff got on board. This is a ground cling. Students walk everywhere, and if you drive a golf cart on campus, you know this, like this. This is how they walk. And they're not looking up, so they're not looking for your print flyer. But the ground clings got behind their phones, and it was something they're not used to seeing, and like, oh, what's that? And we modeled it after hopscotch. We actually did see students using it like a hopscotch board, so that was pretty fun. You're like, that's a win, when you see that kind of thing. The next thing is, our students think cost and value are the same thing, so we gave them a cost comparison. Not only are we a better value, we're cheaper than living off campus. And this isn't even considering transportation costs and the fact that those off-campus places have a utility cap, and they're going to charge you when you go over the utility cap. This is just straight rental dollars. And you'll see on the bottom, it just makes sense. And we did it with the C. I'm like, are they going to know what change is? Are they still using paper money? But it's nice to have younger staff around who can tell me, yes, people are still using paper money, Amelia. And then elevator cling, we use these at check-in to welcome students to our first year buildings. We don't have a lot of elevators in our upper class areas. So we do a welcome one at check-in, and then this is our returning room selection elevator cling. Those ran us how much?
Like $400.
For all of them, right?
And they are high quality vinyl, so if you do a welcome one like we do, those stay up all year long, and they're not gonna come off or fade. They're meant to be up all year.
Yep. And you'll notice there are different student pictures. That's all part of telling our story. One thing that's important to consider when you're doing these types of visual images is representation matters. So you want to make sure that you're capturing all of your student demographic. And so we pay a lot of attention to that and make sure, we pass it through other people to make sure that we're calling each other out when we don't see everyone represented.
Something Amelia missed that I want to bring up is these little table tents we put in dining halls across campus. So the ones in housing, the ones on main campus, all students, it was in front of them being able to see it. And as well with the elevator clings, I was taking the vendor around to put them up. And students, again, walking with their phones, I was like, we just got done putting one up, and they both look up from their phone, these two girls, and they go, whoa, like what, this is new, and had a whole conversation. So it's kind of like, okay, what we're doing with our job, like they're noticing it makes sense. So I thought that was a cool story.
Oh, giveaways and swag. We do love our giveaways and swag. We actually have some examples over on the table. We find out what they want and will really use, and this goes along with the second bullet. It's really important to align with your university's mission, vision, and values. One of our big ones is sustainability. And so it really bugs me when we think of giveaways, and the first thing I think is that's gonna end up in the trash in 2 weeks. Then it's not a good use of their money, which it becomes our budget, right? So what are they actually gonna use? What do we see people carrying around? This year we've got these nice tumblers. They're kind of a Yeti knockoff.
I call them our Fetties.
Yeah,
Yetis.
and we have an example of one up there. Fetties, I like that. Live the FGCU life on one side and the logo on the other. And then these wonderful vinyl stickers. These are examples of all the vinyl stickers across. There's another one that says home is where the pool is, and it has an actual picture of the pool, which is really pretty. But you'll notice it all kind of brings to mind Southwest Florida. Bright, airy colors. It matches our university's marketing, but still tells our own unique story about living on FGCU's campus. The great thing about these giveaways is it gives us a chance to have face-to-face interaction. So as much as we talk about students using this all the time, they are still needing that face-to-face interaction. And so we set up tables for student staff recruitment, for returning room selection, for getting people to sign up for marketing or for social media accounts. And they can ask us questions while they're there. We put games out. We had a spinning wheel. We still have the spinning wheel. The spinning wheel's a big hit. And then it get different pieces of swag on the spinning wheel. We also have a Plinko board, because I thought that was a fantastic idea to get a Plinko board. There's a generation gap with Plinko. So got to be careful about that too. If you're a younger staff, we're looking at you like, what? What's Plinko? We had some students threw the disc at the board instead of sliding it down the board. So if you're going to have Plinko, have some instructions. So I'll let Danielle talk a little bit about how we use it to increase social media.
So for some of our social media stuff, I actually had the chance to table at new student orientation during the resource fair. Instead of just talking about signing up for housing, I said, hey, if you follow us on 2 or more social media platforms, you'll get a sticker. This is where we post all the information that you're going to need. So really, from the get-go, pushing our students to our social media so they can find the information that they're looking for later on.
And I'll let Danielle take over with social media.
Is something that I'm super passionate about, and I feel like it's my chance. I don't get a lot of student interaction in my role, but this is the way I get to interact with students is through social media. So this is what works for our campus. Every institution, your students are going to be different. They're going to be using different social media platforms. What's nice is we did a question on our Quality of Residence Life survey asking, what social media do you guys use the most? So we took that information and kind of switched our strategy a little bit. So we found out that our students are mostly on Instagram and Snapchat, and that our parents are mainly on Facebook. So we tweak the messaging for every platform. So I'm going to go in depth just a little bit of them, but the ones I'm not going to talk about is Pinterest and YouTube. Pinterest mainly just for room ideas for our students when they're moving in, and then our YouTube we have a whole how-to series of like how to send mail and how to use the laundry machines, which is a big push this year, as well as just follow-up videos from events. So first is Instagram. We realize not only our students are looking at this, it is our potential student, it is our current student, it is our community members, it is also parents. We do high resolution images only, so if you're looking at this, it's a very nice feed. All the colors very much represent Southwest Florida. So we only do high resolution images on our actual feed and making sure that we're telling the story of our students and how they live the FGCU life. If we do want to do graphic and flyers, we use them as Instagram stories. Those are gone within 24 hours. They don't, if the event's done, they don't need to be on the feed because it's not relevant to students anymore. You can also utilize highlights to show past events. your facilities, we went through the different kind of room types to show them what's happening apartments versus our suite style in South Village. And then also we use certain hashtags on every single post and then search those hashtags to engage with our students. So we use hashtag Live the FGCU Life, or I'll search just hashtag FGCU to see students on campus. I'll comment on their photos, I'll like their photos, I'll reshare their photos on our story, really making that digital connection with the student.
Stay on Instagram for a second if you would. So one thing you'll notice about our feed, the colors of the photos still match very much with our branding colors for the university. And this is a huge part, color is a huge part of telling our story at FGCU. It's sunshiny, it's gorgeous, we have an 80-acre lake on campus, and our housing, some of our housing sits right on that 80-acre lake. So a lot of people have lake view rooms. And so that's a big part of telling our story. Things are very bright on our campus, and so our feed is very bright. If you look down in the bottom corner where the blue sky is, if the sky doesn't look like that when we take the photo, we have beautiful magicians, our interns and Danielle, who can make the sky that blue. And so we just try to really be careful about how it all fits together in our feed to tell our story, instead of looking at them solely as individual images.
So Facebook, like I kind of mentioned, is more parent focused, so we switched the messaging a little bit. Yes, we're still doing some high quality photos, but we're also doing more graphics. More things they can read, they're just scrolling through before work or whatever. They get the information they need right then and there. A lot of the time they're tagging their students and stuff. For RA recruitment, for example, like applications closing soon, payment deadline reminders, things like that, and just more parent-focused messaging. So if you have something on your campus that you think, yes, the student should know, but the people paying the bills should also know, maybe push them towards your Facebook.
Two things about Facebook that we also use: Facebook Live before fall check-in, and it's real time. It is an entire production. I wanted to put a photo up, but we didn't have any really great quality photos of that whole production. If you're going to do that, test it out ahead of time. Make sure that your campus network can handle that. There were times where we used Danielle's 4G service because it worked a little better and it wasn't dropping like our campus network at that point was. So that's important. Also, one thing parents really, really love on Facebook, the review videos of the first month,
6
right?
weeks of
Yeah.
school.
First 6 weeks, or if there's a big program. Soviet Olympics for us is huge, so our first year buildings all have an Olympic type event. It's a week long. So those review videos, parents love that. They love it, and if they see their student, they tag their student. You know, it's a whole production, literally a production.
So for Twitter, we realized that our students don't necessarily use it. Like I said, your students may really utilize Twitter. What we mainly use it for is retweeting from other university accounts and for providing quick communication during emergencies. So I don't know if any of you guys were affected by Hurricane Irma, but when I went to Central Florida to stay with my family. Amelia stayed down in Southwest Florida. I could not get a text out. I could not get an Instagram story up, but we could get a tweet out. I don't know why, but also our main university marketing was also pushing everyone to Twitter. So we are kind of following their protocol now for, in the case of emergency, just pushing all the information towards Twitter.
And one thing about emergencies, because they can come in any form, you need to know where your students and your parents are on social media. You also need to go with whatever you can use at that point. Cell phone service was limited, power was out in a lot of places, and so we kind of had to go with whatever we could use. But you also need to make sure, and this is actually part of our emergency guidelines now, that more than one person knows how to use those. Because you don't know how everyone's going to be impacted during a storm or any type of an emergency when they happen. And so making sure multiple people are trained in how to use those, that they leave campus with the passwords, they know how to log in, and so all of those sorts of things are important. So even if it's not Twitter that you use during an emergency, having that information to multiple people is important.
So this is one of my favorite accounts that we have. It's a Giphy account. So if you go on Instagram story or on Snapchat, you can like place the stickers that move. What's really cool is our university didn't have anything. So if you search your institution, there's probably a bunch of things like school-spirited things that pop up. When you searched FGCU, nothing came up. So our team really saw a need that we wanted to fill. So one of my interns, her name was Megan, was super gung-ho. Danielle, I want to do this. I learned in one of my classes how to do it. Can we please do it? I did some research, had to go back and forth with Giphy to actually get a business verified account, but once we did it, we were live. These are just some of the ones we did. So we did some for our student leadership groups like NRHH and RHA. Main housing, we have a couple of them. All of our communities have their own little gift sticker, and then overall FGCU spirited ones. What's cool is we've had it just over a year, and we've had over 18 million views. Yeah, and it's completely free. So that's kind of shocking to me, but it's free. You're reaching your students where they're at, and I see our students, they tag us all the time when they're using the Welcome to Northlake or Biscayne Hall, and they have their building icons and logos in it. It's cool to see that community grow on a digital platform.
And prior to this, we didn't have any for the university. Yeah. If you searched FGCU, there's nothing. And I'll brag on Danielle and her staff a little bit here. We did win a first place ACU Hawaii Marketing Award this year for social media for this.
So Snapchat Takeover Team. So this is something that's completely free that you can do with your staff. When we did our Quality of Residence Life survey and saw that Snapchat was one of our most used platforms, Snapchat is a real, in-the-moment content. So happening right then and there, you want to be able to capture that story and have our students tell their own story. So I supervise 12 to 15 RAs and student leaders between RHA and NRHH, and I do an in-depth training with them during RA training before fall starts. So we go over a proper marketing technique of how to Snapchat an event. So how they should introduce themselves, if there's a filter, how to get people to come out an hour before the event, how to Snapchat it during an event, and then a sign off at the end. We get them cool swag, so for example, this is their t-shirt, and then on the back, this little snap icon, they can scan it. It's scannable on the phone to add us as a friend, so people are able to see our content. If you do it right now, it should work as well. Or on your paper, the handout, the little icon at the bottom should also scan. So what's cool is I talk with these students. I have a group me. I also email with them back and forth. They can literally send me a group me an hour before. If something's happening on main campus, hey, I see this event's happening. Can you send me the login? I'll change the password specific for that event, send it to them, give them a time block that they're allowed to be logged in, and then when they're done, I'll change the password back to whatever my admin password is. Our students really like it. My student staff is great that I trained for this. They're very gung-ho and very excited, and they don't necessarily get to do a lot of the marketing side of housing, but this is their story and how they live the FGCU life. And like I said, it's completely free.
One thing about the takeover team that's really great, the first 6 weeks is crucial, right? We all learn that in grad school, and it's crucial to their success. And having to connect with them now on digital media, because that's where they are, the first 6 weeks with the takeover team are packed. It's almost every night we have someone taking over on Snapchat, and we'll sit at home and we're watching the takeovers and we're texting each other, did you see so-and-so's takeover? It's really good. And so it's just a fun way to get students involved, and if they don't know about the event and it's happening right as they're watching it, they have a chance to get out there and go to that event.
And we'll also do filters with our staff and let them know, hey, be sure to use the filter and promote it as well. So speaking of Snapchat filters, if you have a little bit of a budget or even a bigger budget, Snapchat filters aren't that expensive. So if you don't necessarily know the back end of a Snapchat filter, you go in, either you can pre-upload, I make all of ours using the Adobe Creative Suite, but Snapchat actually has templates you can use to create your own. You can change the name, you can change the color, add different text, fonts, little icons that Snapchat already has preloaded. So just for some examples, we put this one over commencement for our students to use. FGCU Pride Week, we had a new facility open up on the boardwalk, and then we always do them during move-in time. So it's all algorithm based on how much it costs. So it's how long, timing-wise, you want to over a place, how many square footage it's going over, and then another, depending on the time of the week or they know how busy a place is going to be, they start at $7 and we've paid up to $50. It just depends on the algorithm. For example, for Dance Marathon, we put one, and it was up for 13 hours, and it only cost $10. So very cost effective. And like Amelia was saying earlier, it doesn't matter if they use it, it's mattering if they're seeing it. So even if they're swiping through and seeing that payment reminder, or for returning room selection, they saw it. And you get a whole analytics report emailed to you the next day after it runs. So you can see how many overall views it got from like people putting it on their stories, how many people swiped and saw it, and then how many people actually used it on their story.
Another thing about Snapchat filters when you talk about budget, the first year, and again, we had a director who was really dedicated to making sure that we had the budget that we needed. We budgeted $2,000 for the entire year because we were covering all the Snapchat filters. So if Residence Life had a program they wanted to filter for, if we wanted it for returning room selection or RA staff selection, whatever we wanted, we would have enough money there. That first year, we probably used $500 to $700, and we were $500 to $700, and we were putting Snapchat filters over everything. So it was really a lot cheaper than we thought it was going to be.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, it's kind of like the question. Did you have any problem using your P card to pay for these?
Nope. So once we got them as like a verified vendor with the university, I log in with our credentials, and I'm able to print the invoices, and no problem.
I will say, though, they weren't the easiest company to work with in the beginning, and that did take a little bit of time. So I think it was Lindsay, actually, Lindsay Johns. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that the filters and things and people using them for this, I think was still pretty new at that point. I think they've probably come a long way with getting you the information they need. They're kind of used to this now. But at that point, it took us, I think, 2 months to be able to get started with them.
Sorry, do you mind if I just, I've used my P card before to buy snap filters. Obviously, it's going to depend on how strict your budget coordinator is.
Mhm.
Pretty archaic. Okay. 1770 valid. So P card because they're like,
Yeah, I was able to just put my stuff in, and it was quite good.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So every university is going to have different guidelines for how you can use a purchasing card. We have pretty strict guidelines in the state of Florida, and understandably so, but we were able to do that.
So if you do have a little bit more of a budget and you want to advertise on social media, we always advertise during returning room selection. So this first advertisement was for our returning room selection this year in 2020. We targeted parents on Facebook in our top 5 counties where our students come from in the state of Florida. And we really wanted it to make those intentional conversations. So they're going home for winter break. We put it that first week they were home to hit our parents. So they have those intentional conversations with, oh, I saw this thing, returning room selection's coming. Like, what are your plans for next year? Really making those conversations with their students. So like we use the information we know that our parents are on Facebook, targeting them on Facebook. This one, we're targeting our students on Instagram. We did this the week of returning room selection. Very eye-catching, more picture-based with a little bit of text. Where are you living next year? Still time to reapply. Hitting our students on Instagram. What's nice about when you run advertising is that you do get a full analytics report. So you're seeing your overall demographic that you're actually hitting, where they are living, how many people clicked it, your cost per click. A lot of things you guys probably don't care about, but I love analytics, and that's the fun part of my job, I think, is running the numbers. Something that was new this year when we did our returning room selection is from Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat now for advertising. There's a whole backstory, but basically there was a lawsuit that happened somewhere in Florida where they sued Snapchat for hyper targeting. So it was some kind of company that was targeting a lower economic area for their product or services. So now if you are considered housing, credit opportunity, or an employment opportunity, you're considered like a special class. So it just means you can't hyper-target your students. So I used to target our students based on their zip code, and I would use the zip code of the university. Now it just has to be broader. It's a lot to go into. We don't need to go into it now, but just know that that is something you'll have to think about when targeting as housing professionals.
And that means there's a lot of people who see, especially on Facebook, this ad in like Broward County because they're my age, and they're like, why am I seeing this? Why am I seeing this ad from FGCU Housing? But, you know, hopefully parents as well of our students see what they need to see.
So collaboration is super important with social media, and it's free. So cross-posting with your other campus partners. So for example, if Campus Life and Campus Recreation tag us in something, like I'm going to reshare it on our Instagram story, and they're going to do it vice versa, making sure we're getting the word out any way we can. Request to be featured on campus accounts. So for example, during our returning room selection, I was in talks with our main university marketing, sending them photos, videos, and then the actual copy of what I wanted as the caption to let students know returning room selection was happening. We also do freebie Fridays, like once or twice a month on Instagram. So this is an example to get students to follow you on social media. And for this one, it was for returning room selection. Hey, like this post, follow us, tag a friend that you think needs to sign up for housing too, and we're giving away a whole swag pack. In one day alone, we got over 40 new Instagram followers. So it's a very easy, cost-effective way. Like, it doesn't have to be a big prize. It can just be swag or other little things you might have around your office. And then print material at other offices and front desk. So for returning room selection this past year, I went on main campus, and we had 5x7 postcards and went to financial aid, prevention and wellness, camper recreation, places our students were going that weren't in housing, and putting our information there. So kind of how Amelia was talking about meeting our students in highly and unusual places. They're not necessarily thinking about housing when they're going into financial aid, but they see it and it reminds them to sign up for housing. So just thinking of different ways and places you can put things.
All right, marketing for staff recruitment. I'm going to talk mostly about professional staff recruitment here. So the same way that we need to capture our students' attention, we need to capture new professionals' attention. And some of the same changes that have happened for our Gen Z students already happened with our millennial generation. And so there's some of the same things: more visual, less in terms of words, meet them where they're at, make it visually appealing, do different things that are unexpected that make people want to open up your print marketing. And we'll give a couple of examples on the next slide. As well as some ideas for in-person recruiting, things like TPE and SEAHO recruitment. Ideas for online job postings we'll show you. And then ideas for on-campus interviews we don't have a visual for. But we do give all of our candidates a folder with some of our most recent marketing campaign materials. So if we just went through returning room selection, we'll put some of that in there. If we just went through staff recruitment for our student staff or our DA staff, we'll put that in there. We put a campus newspaper in there. If we have any documents that we've produced for, the finance board or for the board of trustees about living on campus and some of the statistics, we'll put that in there. Just things that they can do in their downtime, because we all have it, right? When we're job searching, we're on on-campus interviews, you always have downtime. And so it gives them a chance to read more about your campus, more about your department. You're telling them your story. And it also gives them a chance to generate some additional questions for their interviews as well. So these are some visuals of the things that we've done. Again, I'll go from left to right. At the top, you'll see this accordion-style brochure. Rather than doing a flip page brochure, we did it in accordion style so that it's more visually appealing and interesting. You can't necessarily see a lot of it here in detail, but you'll notice it's very graphics heavy. If we're doing numbers, we're making them stand out, boxes, icons, things like that. And really, this document is meant to tell new candidates about FGCU, to tell our story. What our student population is, how many staff we have, what the benefits are of the job. So that's one of those pieces that we give out. Any logos that you have, you'll see a grow here. That's actually our new residential curriculum that'll be launching in fall 2020. So any graphics for any programs you have, make sure you put in there. Then the coloring book, which we got a second place ACUHO-I marketing award for. We're so proud of that this year, because we went for it 3 times, and the 3rd time was a charm, so it was good. The coloring book is just an interesting way, while candidates are at placement exchanges, in their downtime, to introduce them to our campus and give them something to do. It's a little bit relaxing, lets them kind of take a breather in between their interviews, and still gives them a vision of what our campus is like. Did we put the icons of all of us in there? Mm-hmm. So we also have all of our Bitmojis in the back for all of our staff. So it's just something fun, a little bit different.
Just give this to employees, or do you give them to students as well?
Just the full-time employees. And then in the middle, we also put Snapchat filters over TPE, the venue at TPE, with the posting numbers and details there. Again, they may not use it, but they see it, right? And so we have a picture of our beautiful boardwalk, the palm trees in the background. So who are we as a campus? And then some of our students are in that actual photo. And then on the right-hand side, we've all kind of started to see these cropping up from different campuses. These are online job postings. If you're just posting from your university's website, whatever graphic they have doesn't always come through. Sometimes it's complicated. It's leading people to your university's job posting board, but not necessarily to the job posting itself. And so making these one-pagers is a great way to get the word out. So Danielle and her staff will make these and send them out to full-time staff for them to share on their own social media and in the social media groups that they're a part of for our profession. It's a one-pager, pieces of the job description, the most important parts, any important things we need them to know right off the bat about our campus. But when you send them, make sure you're sending them in the format that makes it easiest to share immediately on social media. If you send it to people in a JPEG, they have to convert it, correct?
No, JPEG's good. If you
Not
send it
JPEG,
to
PDF. They have to convert it. So it's less likely that staff are going to do that and share it, and you want them to share it. So send it to them in PNG or JPEG.
So things you can do without a marketing degree or even a budget. So if you haven't heard of Canva.com, I highly recommend it for all of you to use. There's a free version. There's also an upgraded version. What's really nice is we have kind of trained our student staff on Canva as well as the RDs, because not everything can come through me and my staff. There would be just way too much then. But what we can do is we upload our colors for them to use. You can put in your own color codes. You can put in your own fonts and things and pull them from your university and what they're using. So if you haven't used Canva, highly recommend you check that out. Other things you can do is student interns. So at our campus, I was actually a marketing student at FGCU when I was a student. It was very hard to kind of find an internship because internships aren't necessarily required to graduate. Same with our digital media design students. So they want jobs that they're able to get real portfolios to then move on up after graduation. Not all interns or internships need to be paid. So whatever your campus can do, either that's like a percentage of off their housing rate, or like our students need service learning hours to graduate, so offer service learning, or for us, we are very fortunate we're able to pay our interns for what they're doing, but they're building very robust actual work portfolios by the time they leave us.
Also, I just want to jump in 1 second. A lot of times too, students get academic credit for internships, and so they'll take an unpaid internship that's on campus because it makes their life a whole lot easier, and they get that credit for that class. And so that's probably the #1 thing last year that I was telling people when they were asking me, how do you do this? I don't have a budget. Look for students. We work with other professionals in those departments, in those schools, to identify the best students for that. We send our job postings to them to share with their classes so that we can get a good pool of candidates for those positions.
So being consistent on social media. So social media is basically free. So even if you don't have a dedicated marketing person, I recommend taking one platform you know your students are using and be consistent. Create a content calendar. You don't want to overwhelm them and create what we call content clutter, where it's so much they're not going to listen to it, they're not going to watch it anymore. So being consistent, every couple days doing a posting, or being super consistent on Instagram story or your Snapchat story. Consistency is key at the end of the day. We gave you a handout as you walked in. We're not going to be able to go over all of it, but just real quick, that first page is kind of an overall social media little cheat sheet, things that we're going over and how FGCU uses it. The second page is if you've never created a overall marketing plan. That's kind of our thought process of when we go through it. And then the last page is just an example of what a branding and style guide is. So that's for you guys to take home with you, look at it later on, just some more information that we weren't able to fit into this presentation. Tabling is also a great way. Like I said, I had the opportunity to table at first year student orientation. Hey, you want a piece of swag, follow us on 2 social media platforms, and then if you ever need any information, send us a DM, or the information should already be there, and RD collateral assignments. So if you have an RD or someone on Res Life that's very interested in marketing, passionate about social media, but you don't necessarily have the budget for a marketing person, kind of sit down, maybe create a marketing committee to figure out your overall branding that you want for your department, and then let them do that as one of their collateral assignments.
RDs taught me a lot. about social media before our staff got here. I am a Gen X. I didn't know how to use hashtags. I'm like, what the heck is a hashtag? Why do I need to know this? Now I understand they're actually really powerful in terms of people finding you, but I didn't know a lot. And so our RDs really were helpful in showing me how to tag somebody, how to use hashtags, all those things. So our RDs are really pretty powerful teachers for that. And our Kuhai Marketing Awards, I've already mentioned 2 of them, the Giphy account and the coloring book. We also won a 2nd place for logos. We rebranded logos for all of our buildings and communities. So I wanted to mention this because as you get good at marketing, you're going to want to go for these Hawaii Marketing Awards. So I want to tell you what we've learned in the process of applying for these. They are marketing awards, so they have to be visually appealing when you send them in. So Danielle can tell you how they did this, but when we first were sending it in, it was like pictures of things laid out on a table. They want it to look like this. They want the presentation to be good, so that's one of the first things that we learned. And also just take those things that have quantifiable data. So we knew how many people were using our Giphy account. We were able to include that. So I just wanted to put that out there for anyone who wants to apply for a marketing award or compete for that. Again, we were just really proud of the work that we were doing, and I just give so much credit to Danielle and her staff for the hard work that they put in. They've actually kind of really brought our entire department even closer in terms of understanding what each other do in our day-to-day jobs, and so we were really proud of that and wanted to show it off. But if you want to do that, we're happy to give you any kind of feedback or lessons learned if you wanted to contact us about that.
So mainly to make them look like this, we just find free mock-ups for Photoshop online and just download them and use them. But it's an easy way to get people excited and make it look very professional. So that is the end of our presentation. Once again, I'm Danielle Galipeau. I'm the marketing coordinator. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Danielle Galipeau.
And I'm Amelia Capeda, Associate Director for Business Operations. You can also follow me. You can follow me at Amelia Capeda or Amelia Capeda1. I forgot my password and couldn't figure out how to get it hooked back up. So thank you. I'm glad there are other people that are near my age in the room so they understand. But I actually do all my posting on Amelia Capeda1. So
before you guys leave, if you can, please review us on Guidebook. We want all the feedback we can to eventually then present at another conference. So before you leave, if you could do that, and then we'll hop into some questions. Yes?
So with your Instagram account, or just accounts in general, but specifically the Instagram account, what are you about, like how much you post? Is there such thing as posting too much?
Yeah, so we call that content clutter if you're posting too much. I'll do Instagram stories like every day. If people tag us in it, I'll reshare it. But for actual postings, I'll go like every other day or like every 2 days. You don't want to do too much because then your students, it's going to become white noise and they're going to just not look at it anymore.
or they get annoyed that it's in their feed and then stop following you.
Yeah.
So that's the other piece of that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about some platforms where you can like post on like Facebook, Instagram, and at the same time, like if you pay for it's like
Oh, Hootsuite?
yeah,
Yeah, so Hootsuite, I used it when I first started working here, but then if you do the free version, it's like too many accounts are posted. I actually use an app, it's called Preview. I should have put it in here, I didn't think about it. For Instagram, you can upload all your photos and kind of put the same filter or do whatever so they all kind of match. And you can see what your feed looks like, and it's free, and you can go ahead and write your caption and set a reminder for when you want to post. Yep. Yep, and same with Facebook. On the back end of your Facebook page, you can go ahead and upload it and then set it for the time and day that you want it to post, and it'll automatically do it. Yeah.
One thing that I just want to mention, and you may have had it in your new professional like recruitment, I searched 3 years ago with a live-in partner, and so just the importance of advertising.
Yep.
Live-in partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it's in there. Yep.
All of
Yeah.
that. So I'm sure
Yep.
that was in there, just couldn't see, but just we are starting to do that now. I know a lot of other institutions
Very
are,
important.
so just I think more transparency
Yeah.
in the recruitment process, the salary range
Yep.
that you offer, just that gets candidates
Yep.
bought in, because that was 100% deal breaker for me when applying. I couldn't have a partner or a live-in pet because that's what I was searching with.
Yep.
So just something to take away and be more cognizant of.
Yeah, great point.
Your recruitment.
It's a great point. And we did find that. So every year we update these documents too. So staff, as they're coming back from TPE, will be like, oh, we got a lot of questions about this. Next year we need to make sure that XYZ is in the recruitment guide. So it's a great point. And pay attention when staff are bringing back those little nuggets of wisdom from where they've been and what they've found, that it's fluid, so constantly changing.
And if you guys want this presentation in a digital version of the handout, if you have a business card, drop it to me in the next week or so. I'll send a Google Drive link out.
Hey, I'm at UNC Charlotte, and we have a marketing group that works on marketing. We also have a lot of like informal social media. So we have our department, and then each hall has their own social media that's run by the hall director or maybe some RAs sometimes. Do you have any tips for consistency or message or like how to train on the use of social media?
Yeah, so we had kind of that same thing of buildings and hall directors wanted their own, and we kind of put a nix on it because it isn't as consistent. And like, I went to school for this, like the voice and tone needs to be similar, so I'm the only one that posts on our accounts. We did have a lot of pushback when it came to us telling, like, we decided we don't want this. If that is something that's happening at your institution, I would sit down and kind of do what we do for our takeover team. So a very formal training of like, hey, like this is the style and tone we use, like this is how often you should be posting, this is appropriate, this is not, and make very, very clear guidelines. And if, say it's not your staff, it's more like, or professional staff, it's student staff, I would make them sign a contract of like, if you break these rules, like you will be done, kind of with posting and having this opportunity.
It was not the most popular decision that we made in this process, but we did feel it was necessary because we also did a review of all of those accounts, and we're able to show people, you posted 3 times last year. You're engaging no one. 4 people are following you. And so it's not helpful. It's better for you to get us good information, for us to post on these larger accounts and push your students there. And I think once we were able to show people those numbers, some people were really active, but some people really weren't. And so it just became this clutter that was out there in, you know, the webosphere that no one was really paying attention to. I think now people have come around to see it. The other thing I'll say is that Danielle, I'll plug tomorrow at 9:15,
15 a.m.
has a program as well about reaching students with like student staff programs. So going beyond, reaching our students beyond the 8.5 by 11 is what it's called.
9:15 a.m. So if you want to learn more about meeting our students where they're at, I have another session then.
So, and that was also, it was critical to help them understand there are other ways other than our main social media accounts to get this information to students at a building level or a community level. They have group me's, they have Eagle
Link.
Thank you, Eagle Link that they use. So there's a lot of different ways that we're also working with our student staff and our residence life staff to get some of that more granular information out.
It just also streamlines the process. Like, if we're pushing them to 6 different accounts and all the accounts aren't posting the same information, we push them all to our main housing account and they're getting the information they need from one central location. Yeah.
I don't know if you've experienced this, but so we are trying to increase our social media presence. We've talked about going and using Snapchat. We see that our students are. We're getting pushback in the thought of seeing things from students that we don't want to see. So what?
Yes.
What would your response?
So we don't follow any other students. Like, they follow us, we don't follow anyone back on Snapchat, because again, that piece of, well, if we see they're doing something, we have to act on it. And I very much tell my student staff that take over the Snapchat account, first, they're trained. They know what I expect, and if they don't do that, like, they're cut, basically. But also that they are not allowed to add anyone. So you don't add a friend. If I see a friend was added, like, we don't do that here. And I explain to them, it's like, if one of your residents sends something and they're underage drinking in their room, like, legally we have to take action. We don't want that. And then I scare them a little bit, and they're like, yes, we don't want that. So I would just say set clear expectations and then just don't follow anyone else.
So aside from Snapchat though, this brings to mind that when you are searching hashtags on Facebook, Twitter, not
You
Facebook,
have, like,
yeah,
a
Facebook, Twitter,
Barstool
Instagram.
account. I don't know if you guys have those.
We have run across policy violations when we do that. It doesn't mean we stop following the hashtags, but it has meant that we've had to do some outreach with Residence Life to then follow up on those policy violations. So that's something to keep in mind as well. When you're searching these hashtags, sometimes you do see things that you wish you didn't see, but also sometimes those have led to good conversations with students and educational, outcomes for them. So
What's nice is one of our ADs of residence life teaches like university transition, like freshman 101. She lets me come in and I do a whole kind of social media course with them of like what you're posting now, if it's public, like employers can see it, and kind of the do's and don'ts of social media. And a lot of them are like, that's not true, and then I'll literally Google their name and show them what
Yeah.
comes up in front of class. So then they understand the importance of what they're putting online and their personal brand at the end of the day.
I had a question about the RA programming. So one thing for us, we met with marketing, got our logo created, and are working towards building our brand for housing and residence life. But with the RA program, they kind of use posting my wall, and then it like is decentralized again. So are there efforts that y'all do to control that?
Yeah, so I actually go in at RA training and present to all the RAs, something kind of similar, talk about Canva, talk about our brand, our colors, our fonts, and I do kind of a little mini tutorial in Canva of how to kind of create a good looking flyer, things they can do while using templates. Like I understand they're not marketing students, but you want to have something that is eye-catching, so kind of a little tutorial of how to go about that, and also our brand. And then a lot of them actually will come up to me after, send me emails because they want to learn more, and I have an open door policy in my office that if they want to stop by and show me something or ask questions, they're more than welcome to. I know we're running up on some time, we're running out, but please, 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 if you can, leave us a review on Guidebook, and if you have any questions, we'll hang around for a little bit.
Thanks so much.
Thank you guys.